Welcome back to Beyond the Bench, the podcast from Mountain States Legal Foundation, where we explore the cases, people, and principles shaping the fight for liberty in America. Today, we are joined by Kole Kelley, the director of the Center for American Prosperity and Energy, also known as CAPE for Mountain States Legal Foundation, president of the Douglas County Farm Bureau, chair of the Colorado Bar Association Agricultural Law Section, and the Colorado Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee, and let's not forget, a Colorado native. Kole, it's great to have you, and thanks for joining us for a conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Noah. Happy to be here.
So just to kick us off, let's start with a simple introduction. Tell the people who you are, and most importantly, who is Kole Kelley before becoming an attorney?
A really terrible pig jock? No. So I grew up down in the San Luis Valley. I tell people I ate more dirt as a kid than I probably plowed on our family farm. Grew up on a heavy dose of George Strait, not going to lie to you. My mom's a big fan, and how could you not be? But yeah, I grew up, we raised limousine cross cattle and crossbred show pigs down there until I left for law school, and now I'm chasing the dream of being an attorney, but still very much ingrained in me of the farm way of life, the early mornings and late nights, and getting your hands dirty.
Absolutely. It's a peaceful way of life at times. And sometimes it's crazy. Yeah. Sometimes it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Funny enough, my aunt's sister owns a dairy farm out in middle of Indiana, but it's a great time. But yeah, early mornings, late nights, hard hours, but you got to get the job done. And just to kind of build off that, you said you grew up on your family's like pig cattle farm out in Alamosa, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So paint us a picture. What did a typical day look like for something in that industry, I guess?
Yeah, it's difficult. I don't know if there is a typical day for ag, but there's always something to do, right? So a lot of mornings it was waking up, you're up before the sun to go feed animals. For us, it was feeding hogs. In the wintertime, you have to go break ice so the cattle can water and feed hay to the cattle. And in the springtime, you're checking for calves and the fun stuff of that. But it's a lot of just checking one thing off the box and moving to the next, making sure that the animals are taken care of. The funny thing at our house, and I think it goes for most ag families, are the animals eat before we do. So you're out there walking pigs, putting them away, feeding them, and all that happens before you can go inside and do your homework, right? Mm-hmm. So it's funny. It extends days out a little bit, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything growing up.
Nice. And then I guess a lot of people don't think about the things that aren't book knowledge, right? That you can learn in school or just I guess read about it. But what's something that maybe people kind of have to get their hands-on experience to really learn about working on a farm that nobody can prepare you through books or school knowledge, almost like what they call street knowledge.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many things. You talk to people that live that rural lifestyle. Most of them tell you they can fix anything with WD and duct tape.
Amen.
WD-40 and duct tape. But I would say one of the biggest things is just how much you learn about the land. That's really hard to do through a book. It's really hard to do through classes. The best teacher of how to work the land and make sure that the soil's looking good and that it's adequately watered and the crops are where they need to be is to experience it, right? To throw those irrigation tubes, to be out there watching the crop grow. It's a very different experience out in the field than it is reading about it in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And especially there's different seasons, right? You have good seasons, bad seasons, dry seasons, wet seasons. What kind of, I'm curious, everybody hears about the good, right? It's almost like that's what they consider normal. Everyone's oh, they're just going out, collecting the crops, that's it. But what about a bad season? What is the mindset? What problems are you usually facing that a lot of people don't know about? Because again, I'm from Chicago. You ask anybody in Chicago, they're farmers. They just get crops and then they go home. That's their entire day. But nobody talks about the difference between a good season and a bad season.
Yeah, I would say that's very much just from the culture of agricultural people and who they are. We are the eternal optimists, as I like to say. The hope is always that next year is going to be better than last year. And that goes for anything. And I would say it looks different. You asked about the bad, and it looks different depending on if you are a farm or a ranch. If you're growing crops or you're raising livestock, And I was lucky enough to be around both growing up. And I can tell you the bad usually out here in the West revolves around not having enough water. It's, it makes it really difficult to get things grown. It makes the crop not as great. And candidly, it causes a lot of friction in communities, and especially in the ag community. And it impacts all the way through from the price of the commodities into input costs for livestock. Livestock, I would say the bad is gutting. I've spent nights without sleep in the barn just to lose animals. And you wipe your eye and think, well, we'll try again next year. Next year's going to be better. And so those are the heavy days that you really have to remember why you do what you do and why you lean into the lifestyle that you live. And, it's difficult. It's not an easy life. And I tip my cap every day to the people that do it day in, day out, because it takes, funny thing about it is it takes everything you have. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a very disciplined lifestyle, right? You got to get up, no matter if you feel like it or not, somebody's got to go and work that ranch. Somebody's got to go farm those crops, and it's not going to be anybody else besides the people who already live there. So what kind of lessons from farm life still shape how you approach your work today, right? You were talking about how water is extremely crucial. I mean, you're seeing it from a hands-on perspective, and now you're at the other end of, or, I guess on the other side of the fence, right? You're at litigation and the law side. So I guess what lessons kind of shaped you and how you approach your work now at Mountain States, or even what were you before, even where you're doing at, you were just in DC as well.
Yeah. There's so many lessons, and I would say some of them are character development lessons, and some of them are very practical legal lessons. And so from the character development side, you already alluded to it. It's, we have a saying in agriculture, ag is always open. It doesn't matter how you feel, what's going on. You have to show up and you have to do the job, because it's bigger than you. And that's something that, we at least in my family farm, we took very seriously. That you could have sick days, you could not feel well. You still had to go out and take care of the animals and take care of anything that needed done before you could come inside and really lick your wounds, right? And I think that carries over to the professional world. It's a level of grit that's required. You're not going to feel your best every day, but you need to show up for the people that are counting on you. And I would say the practical lessons that I've taken from how I grew up and where I grew up are one, how to treat people. There's a saying that if my farm's next to yours and we are planting corn, the wind's going to dictate who's going to have a better year, because that wind can take it and push it across. And so we have to take care of each other, and we have to count on each other. And I very much believe that in the legal community. It requires all of us working together to try to reach the best solutions that we can. And with that, the hands-on experience that you alluded to of dealing with water issues down in the San Luis Valley, that very much impacted how I grew up, how our cattle were able to pasture, and it kind of inspired me to lean into the legal career that I did. I was fortunate to be able to experience both good and bad years of that. And so I saw what the issues were, and I saw what they looked like in good years, and how you can work together with people and entities to try to maximize return. And on the flip side of that, how you can protect farmers and ranchers, and how you can protect just the rural lifestyle through the right mechanisms and the right conversations. And so that's why I leaned into the career I have. And candidly, it's the thing I take from me most days is just remembering throwing irrigation tubes in the sun, and remembering how hard that work is, for one, but two, why it needs to be done.
The backbone of America, right? That and truckers. A lot of people,
I would claim that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you were saying, it's much bigger than just yourself. Having to wake up, having to work long hours. I mean, like you said, even just the next farm over, right? Your neighbors as well. The community around you is extremely crucial, especially out there in like the rural parts of America, where if we ain't got each other, then we got nobody.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes the nearest hospital is the next state over for some people, which I think is crazy. But was there a moment, whether it was a specific day or even just over time growing up, when you realized government policy could have a real impact on ordinary families? I mean, you touched a little bit on it, but feel free to elaborate it even a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say there was a specific moment. It was more so just an accumulation of the area I grew up in and seeing people have to deal with the governmental process, the legal process, and seeing how, I'm going to use the word preventative it can be to people actually getting just results, right? Because a lot of these individuals don't have time or the resources to continue to pursue things. And so it became kind of a death by process as opposed to let's reach the right solution here. And so that frustrated me. And I wanted to kind of find a way to prevent that. And so I was fortunate enough. I had a great college advisor, and I walked into her office one day and told her about my frustrations. And she said, well, maybe you should think about law school. And it kind of led me down a path that I haven't looked back on yet. And I'm forever grateful, forever grateful for that advisor, Dr. Boozer at Adams State, for making that comment and leading me down the path it has. Yeah,
I mean, it's an incredible, like, what frustration or even, just one piece of advice can do for your long-term career, right? And I did read, surprisingly enough, that you did play football in college as well. Yeah. What position were you?
I was a wide receiver. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you got quick hands, quick feet.
I don't know if I would call them quick feet, but we would try to hold on to the ball and take a hit if I needed to.
So, to choose then law after balancing, even sports, after balancing your responsibilities toward agriculture as well, and in just also your 5 classes that you're probably taking during, your regular undergraduate, to really pull through to law school, what kind of drove those decisions? And, you were like, I'm going to do this. What got you through law school? And then how did it feel finishing up like that in general?
Yeah. So, I was really fortunate that when I got to Adams State, the coach I played for, his name was Coach Heaton, and his focus was, we wanted to win games, but more importantly, he wanted to produce people of character out of his program. And so from day one, when I stepped on campus, the focus was instilling great character traits, and one of those being discipline and the other being grit. And through those two, I would say they drove me at Adams State. I was really fortunate that I was able to kind of load up on classes. So I got out of Adams State a year early, actually, and knew exactly where I wanted to head for law school because of my conversations with Dr. Boozer and my frustrations around water law in particular. And so I narrowed in on the University of Denver because they had a pretty robust water program. And at the time, one of the faculty advisors for that was the late Justice Hobbs, who was a hero of mine. And I wanted to even just be able to have a conversation with him. So I narrowed in on that and then took the leap into, I was fortunate enough to get accepted in the University of Denver, and there wasn't a second thought. I leaned in, stepped into those classes, and realized that it was a fascinating world to be in. And, some people don't take to law school, and that's fine. It's not for them. But I was one in particular that I had an absolute blast reading through cases and discussing it with classmates, and was fortunate to be involved with the University of Denver Water Law Review as well, where I did get to have conversations with Justice Hobbs. And so it was the continued inspiration of the people in my life and the opportunities I was being given that pushed me, but all the time relying on those principles that Coach Heaton instilled in me of the discipline to do the work and the grit to get through the hard times that were needed. My college football career was littered with injuries, so it was a good lesson in adversity early on for me, and it kind of helped me push through the hard times. But yeah, I would say just fell on those character traits that were developed day one on campus.
Absolutely. I mean, you could tell, even doing my research, that you've instilled that energy and that I guess, passion that you had even towards sports now, fully into law. And I mean, now you were just in DC, right? So tell the people what you're doing there and why you were there. And I mean, that's so cool. You know, I mean, coming from, you know, a kid from small town Alamosa is now at the, where were you at?
I was at the USDA.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like, how often are people saying that coming out of Alamosa? So that's an extremely cool opportunity. So tell us what it was all about, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was fortunate to be invited with a group of our colleagues that are fighting for justice for farmers and ranchers to a roundtable hosted by Secretary Rollins and Administrator Loeffler, focused on legal government and approaching regulation the right way within the boundaries of the authority that has been granted to them by Congress. And it was a great conversation with multiple families that are experiencing hard times with certain administrative processes, and to hear their stories firsthand and hear, you know, what the administration is focused on trying to do and trying to help was, it gave me some optimism leaving DC. But it was really important to be in the room with those families and to hear about the day-to-day, because we get so removed from that. And so I was really thankful that the secretary brought those families in, that the secretary invited those of us that are working to fight this fight for those families, and that we were able to have a conversation about, you know, how the government can actually be helpful in these situations as opposed to hurtful, which is probably an oxymoron, right? I think I want to say it was Reagan, but I don't remember exactly. But the quote, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, is probably one of the scariest sentences people can say. Yeah. But I am optimistic that people like Secretary Rollins will have a positive impact, her and her team. And so it was good to be in those conversations and to push agriculture forward.
And so kind of looking at that bigger picture, like you said, we sometimes get, I guess not removed, but, you know, we get a little far down the chain. You know, for me, like going through grad school and in marketing, right? I knew all about the theory, but then I'm kind of forgetting like marketing is still trends, right? Just doing reels and day-to-day things. And sometimes the internet's weird and the biggest things hit and the weirdest campaigns are super funny, like a Budweiser commercial that is like, oh, that was just a really bad dad joke that stuck with me. And that it was as simple as that. But going back to the question at hand is, you know, many people think lawyers spend all day in court, right? And some people think farmers, all they do is, you know, sit on the farm and collect crops all day. So in your opinion, what's something about the profession that would kind of surprise people?
Yeah, I would say, you know, funny enough, it's the same for both the ag world and the legal world. And it's 98% of the job is all in the preparation.
In what sense?
So in the legal world, people think everything happens in court, right? And I would say the misconception there is 98% of legal battles and conversations, and even when there is litigation, 98% of the litigation happens outside of the courtroom. It's in the preparation of, you know, depositions, document review. A lot of the process happens outside of the courtroom. And it's the same in ag. You know, people see the end crops, or they see the final product, and 98% of that happened in the preparation of, you know, making sure the equipment was ready to go and making sure that things were planted correctly and watered and or fed correctly, right? And so it's funny how those carry over, and it's really it's in the preparation.
Absolutely. And just to kind of, I guess, switch gears and even, like you said, look at the preparation, right? It's a little bit bigger of a picture. When people hear property rights, they often think it's just about land. Mm-hmm. And why should someone living in an apartment or a suburb care? How do we prepare, you know, as somebody who lives in the city and who's maybe not out in rural areas, you know, farming the crops or paying attention to, like you said, was it like the price of seed as well, or livestock. So why would someone living in an apartment or suburb care? Or even, you know, when people hear property rights, they often think it's just about land.
Yeah, no, I would say that's a great question, and it's a fair question, right? Mm-hmm. We live in the metro area. It's a really fair question of why should I care about property rights? My answer is that it impacts everything you do, and it really impacts what you're allowed to own and what you're allowed, like the freedoms you're allowed within the country. And what I mean by that is, one, the ability to own property rights and to utilize property rights is going to directly impact your energy costs in your apartment. It's going to directly impact the price you're paying for food. It's going to directly impact the clothing you're wearing, the products you're able to use in your house. So it's impacting your day-to-day life. And at the end of the day, too, hopefully, hopefully everybody has their own version of the dream they want to live. And I would say without protecting your property rights and your ability to own property, you can't chase that freedom. You can't chase that dream. And so that's why people in the metro area should care about property rights. And that's why it's so impactful to protect each and every citizen's property rights.
Absolutely. And just to build off that, maybe like a misconception people have about government regulation that you'd like to correct.
That's an interesting question.
Almost too big.
Yeah. I would say, I guess the misconception that I always try to correct is not all government regulations are completely awful and completely evil. Some protections exist for very good purposes, right? And forgive me, there's not one coming to mind immediately, but it's the ability to lawfully do that, right? There's a reason why we have the processes we have in America, and our goal is to just make sure that it's lawfully done. I think we could look back in history and say, if we had no government, how great would that work? But the goal is legal and lawful, not none, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you need a little order to the chaos.
Yeah,
right.
If that's a misconception, I would say I caution people with.
Yeah, I think definitely got to have rules, but sometimes rules are meant to be broken, or changed around, moved around. Reread
or redefined, helping find the limits of where they should be.
Exactly, because sometimes it's. I think what's people also misconceive is that law is a matter of context in history as well. A lot of people don't understand that some of these laws are outdated, right? Or affected people 100 plus years ago, and now times change. Culture changes, society changes, weather changes, right? How often does it get hotter than it usually does? Like you said, even property rights change. So that's definitely a good one to put on the table as well. On to the next one is you've represented farmers, ranchers, and businesses of all sorts, right? Basically the full scale.
Yes.
So what's the common thread among all those clients?
Common thread is they're all trying to build something great, and that looks different depending on who it is. I've represented people in the oil and gas industry. I've represented farms. I've represented ranches. I've represented businesses. The scale of it changes. The end goal changes. But at the end of the day, they're all trying to build something for either their families or their companies or their shareholders. There's always a goal of wanting better. And I would say, it's that kind of optimism that continues to drive the nation forward. And so I hope we never lose that. I hope we never lose that drive in our system and in our people, candidly. Absolutely.
And the awesome thing is the rules allow us that, most people can build something better. And you come in to help support them or protect them.
Yes.
All right. So can you share a story of someone whose life was genuinely changed because they stood up for their rights? It could be a recent story, or it could be a historical moment, right, in your career.
Yeah, and so I would say it's, I don't want to disclose too much for anybody I've worked for, but I would say just generally, I've worked for people who have ranged from, standing up from somebody trying to trespass and build over their property to protect their cattle pasture. And I've represented people who have a right to step in and develop a natural resource to try to help drop energy costs and try to make sure that when, the ice storms hit, people have heat. All of those, I would say, are people standing up for their rights and making the world a better place, because, without them, who knows what would happen, right? And that's always
Absolutely.
the question of the butterfly effect of what would be impacted if we didn't stand up or step in. And so I've been really proud in those moments to represent those clients and push towards the goal that they're chasing, because you can see tangibly the impact it's going to make. But I also know that there are things I don't see, like the individual that works for the company that's waking up at 5 a.m. and filling their cup of coffee and headed to work just to be able to support their family, right? Those are the things we don't see. And those are the people that inadvertently are impacted by our ability to step in and help people chase their dreams and chase their goals.
Absolutely. And I like how you touched on, what are the things that we don't see, and what are the things that are happening that maybe no one's paying attention to. And that kind of basically leads into my next question, is like, what's a challenge you've faced that people watching would never know about? Maybe it is something that you are seeing, but, not a lot of people are paying attention to, or it may not seem, on that big of a scale, but maybe it's just a matter of yet, right? It may be a snowball effect.
Yeah. And so it's, sorry, can you ask the question?
Yeah. So what's a challenge you've faced that people watching would never know about? It could be even a regulation or a policy or a bill, that you're kind of keeping an eye on, that a lot of people are like, you think, oh, maybe this deserves a little bit more attention, or, why do people not care as much?
Yeah.
Like, this is dangerous.
Yeah. I would say, the one that I watch really closely that I think flies under a lot of people's radar is just the Farm Bill. And it happened, like, it's supposed to happen every 10 years. We're at year 14 or something like that between farm bills right now. But it has a direct impact in farmers and ranchers' ability to collect insurance and protect themselves in planting crops. But it also impacts our food system in America, the ability for schools to be able to provide nutrition to the youth. It's so encompassing of so many things, and so it's one I always watch closely. It's one I think flies under a lot of people's radar, maybe not in the ag world, but in the broader world sense. But that's definitely a challenge or issue I monitor, because understandably so, it's heavily negotiated, and I'll just fall back on, this is why we have the system we have, and the people who represent the areas they do is they've been elected to negotiate those things and to work through it. And I will put on my ag hat here and say I'm forever optimistic that it'll be the best thing for the country. But inevitably there will be issues that we will need to monitor and watch, and challenges we will have to face as a society because of that.
So stemming off that, I'm curious, why is it over that 10 years? Why is it going on to, like you said, 14, maybe even year 15?
Yeah, it's been difficult for our legislative body to come to an agreement on what needs to be included in it.
Oh, so it's really like people going back and forth.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So just negotiating, redefining certain things back and forth.
And so what they do is they extend the prior version for, it's been, I think, like year extensions to cover the gap left by not implementing the new version of the Farm Bill yet. I will say we do have a draft right now that is being reviewed, and I am optimistic and hopeful that we get something new in place that's better for the country. That's the goal, right? Is always to chase better.
Yeah.
But that's why right now they are kicking it and extending, is they're still redefining and refining what needs to be in there, and what will ultimately help the country as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, a lot can change, especially in 14 years. And yeah, I guess another question is, how can that be harmful that we're extending a policy that's even 14 years old, right? I mean, we had COVID. I mean, what that did to farmers and prices and the change in the economy. Now, 14, now going on to 15 years, like, how can, I guess, reprocessing something that may be, like you said, outdated, be harmful to the ag world, or even, like we talked about earlier, the people who live in the suburbs and the metro areas?
Yeah, I would say you can even back it out further and say for anybody who has an appreciation or who needs their property rights, right? The goal is clarity within the system. When we have clarity about what's going to be in place for the next 10 years, when you know what protections exist for the next 10 years, it allows you to kind of long-term plan. When you're going year to year, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of security in that. And so it makes it hard to make any long-term investments. It makes it hard to, work with confidence. And so I would say that would be the harm, is we're preventing the confidence within the system by not giving them long-term deals, right? And so it's a push towards clarity. I would say that is why a lot of us are optimistic and hopeful that it will be done soon.
Absolutely. And I like how you talked about internal confidence. I mean, again, those long-term investments only come from confidence in the system and what's going to work, right?
Exactly.
Hello. Maybe wrong one. Sorry, we're checking out the TV over here. Outside of practicing law, what keeps you grounded? It's a very broad question, and we're kind of going back towards the beginning, but why not loop it in there?
Yeah, no, so it's funny. Anytime I need a break or to reground myself, I tend to always find myself in a hog barn.
Interesting.
And so it's, I will go back to the family hog barn in the San Luis Valley, or I will head to a friend's, or I will head to a hog show. There's something about the show pig world that just, it takes me back to my roots and really helps recenter me and reminds me of the community of people that I work for. And candidly, it's just a nice way to humble yourself. You're out there with a shovel, cleaning up after a pig. It reminds you real quick. That, we're all in this together, and it takes all of us to, one pitchfork full at a time and till things get cleaned up.
Absolutely. Funny enough, actually, my first job was barn maintenance at the Illinois State Fair.
Oh, wow.
Which was just a fancy term for picking up livestock, I guess.
Excrement.
Excrements. Yeah. I was trying to think of like the nice way to put it, the legal way to put it. Right. But yeah, I thought I was rich. I was getting paid $7.25, and I mean, you're not even, I can't imagine how much you're getting paid if you're getting paid at all, right? You're working it.
No,
but it's a humbling experience, and days went by quick. You sweat a lot, so you get a good workout in. But yeah, it's definitely a one way to get grounded as well. So interesting to know. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be, and what would you ask them? You talked about Justice Hobbs, but would there be anybody else?
This is such a hard question because I think it changes depending on my mood.
What mood are we in today?
See, I would love to say Kobe Bryant, so I could ask him, what's it take to be a Mamba? Like, what's it take to really chase greatness, right?
Yeah.
But I think if I'm honest with myself, on most days, I would say Marcus Aurelius.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he was a Roman emperor. He wrote the Meditations, and it's a book that I reread once a year, every year, just to remind myself about the principles that I want to embody and take into the world. And the reason I would pick Marcus Aurelius is because, he's known for being the old guy in Gladiator, the movie. But he went through a lot of adversity, especially early on in his life, and still was able to show up every day with grace and with the patience needed to be just a great emperor for Roman times and to really expand the empire. And so I would love to talk to him and just get more insight on how he handled that adversity. He wrote Meditations as a personal journal to himself. I think he would be appalled that we're all reading it. But it would be great just to pick his brain and follow up some questions that I've had from the multiple times of reading it.
Yeah. Be careful what you ask him. You're like, I wrote that in confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody was reading my diary, I'd be a little embarrassed.
You're like, actually, that wasn't really meant for other people. But now that you ask, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's awesome though. Yeah, I didn't really think about, I mean, I'm also not a big reader. I need to get back on it, but I mean, you are, so that's why I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah.
My answer would have been like, I don't know, Frank Sinatra. So
I
I'm
love
very
Sinatra,
basic.
though. See, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
it depends on the mood, right?
Yeah.
But looking back at the kid working on the family farm, what advice would you give him today?
Ooh, so many things I wish I could tell that kid. But I think the one I would give him today, if I had to give him one piece, is fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And the reason I would tell him that is because when you're looking at something new, when you're looking at an opportunity, it's really easy to be overwhelmed by the fear you see in it. But once you take a step in, you realize it's not that deep and you can continue to push. And it's with that you will be able to find new opportunities and to push progress in whatever that looks like for a person, right? For me, it's being a man of character and showing up as a man of character. And so that's the advice I would give him.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like fear is false entities appearing real. Or something along those lines. But I completely agree. It's usually just, it's an illusion.
Yes.
So I like that. That was a good one.
Thanks,
I'll give you that one. What's one issue you'll be watching most closely over the next 5 years? I know we talked about the farming bill, but maybe there's another issue. Maybe it's in a different, even realm of government or policy or litigation.
No, absolutely. And I would say the one that's top of mind for me every day at this point is agency administration of energy policies. And that looks like both state and federal level. The implementations of agency rules to either promote or protect energy development. And so to me, it's going to be different depending on what the energy production is. So if it's geothermal, if it's traditional, if it's natural gas, those are what I'm going to be paying the closest attention to. And it's not in the sense of panic, but more in the sense of I want to make sure that the rules implemented are navigable for people to continue to develop energy. Because in America, energy stability is security for our people. And I believe in making sure that the rules are workable to, yes, produce things in a responsible manner, but also continue to produce things. We have to continue to produce energy in this country. We have to continue to allow people to turn heat on, to allow people to turn the AC on, to allow people to even just have running water. We need the energy to be able to do that. And so that's top of my list.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. So we do here at MSLF.
Yeah.
And especially now that you're the director, he gets to call the shots, right? Right. So finally, I guess not finally, but finally, in the sense of big picture questions, what does American freedom mean to you in one sentence?
Ooh.
I know it takes
That's
time.
such a big concept
Takes
for
some time.
one sentence.
Your Marcus Aurelius moment.
Yeah. American freedom to me is a person's ability to chase whatever dream they have for themselves and do so in a way where they can say what they want to say without hurting somebody, where they can do what they want to do without hurting another individual, and they can develop what they want to develop without hurting another individual. That's American freedom to me.
Amen. We'll put it on a shirt. I'll make sure. That'll be your Christmas gift.
Hopefully that fits on a shirt, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get an extra large or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. But amazing answer. Last but not least, we do have a lightning round for you.
Oh, here we go.
If you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll fire it off. We'll be quick about it. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Coffee or energy drink?
Ooh, sorry, Mom. I'm an energy drink guy.
I know you're a caffeine guy. I knew that was going to be if it ain't 200 milligrams, he doesn't want it.
Yep.
All right, early bird or night owl?
Oh, this is tough because ag kind of requires both. But if I had to pick one, I would say early bird.
Okay. And then favorite Colorado hike?
Mount Princeton.
Mount Princeton, where's that at?
It's over in the Collegiate Peaks near Buena Vista.
Okay.
Yeah.
not a great time over there at the
No,
moment. At the moment.
not right now. We're praying for rain over there.
Yeah,
right now.
for real. Biggest legal pet peeve.
Ooh, people that try to punish individuals through process.
Like dragging on like lawsuits and stuff.
Trying to make things so expensive that people can't defend themselves. Trying to make the process prohibitive.
Yeah, that is pretty. Money is a problem.
Yep.
One book everyone should read.
Ooh, there's so many.
I know you're a big reader. It's hard. It's like picking your favorite baby.
child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would say Why Nations Fail.
Why Nations Fail? By who?
You'll have to forgive me. I don't have the authors
all
at
right.
the top of my head, but it's a good insight into why private property rights matter for people and why we should care.
Favorite way to spend a weekend?
I gotta say, at a pig show.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
I love going to pig shows and just being around the community of people and looking at pigs.
Community is a big factor for a lot of people. So most underrated place in Colorado. I know we talked about hikes, but most underrated place.
Yeah, it's, I have to say the San Luis Valley. That's where I grew up. I love the people. I love the views. And that's kind of a boring answer. So I'm going to give you another place in addition to where I grew up. And this one might shock you, but I would say that Ray, Colorado.
Ray.
It's up. Yeah, it's up in the northeast area of Colorado.
Okay. Almost like by Greeley?
It's, I want to say it's south of Greeley. Yeah, it's south of Greeley, I'm pretty sure. But it's over on the border, and it is just beautiful country of rolling plains and ag land. And
you would love Kansas.
Yeah.
you would love
anytime I see some fields, I get excited.
Yeah.
So
No, I
it's
get
the
it.
farm boy in me, I'm sure.
No, I get it. I mean, I was raised a good amount in rural. Well, I say rural, but it was Springfield, Illinois, which is not the most exciting place in America. But you can't beat a sunset out on the plains. I'll tell you that.
For sure.
What's something people are always surprised to learn about you?
Ooh, I would say it's that I love to cook.
Really?
Yes.
What's your best meal to cook, and then what's your favorite meal to cook?
Okay.
'Cause those are two very different things.
Very different. My best meal I cook, and it's gonna sound so chefy, and so it's what I tell people when I'm trying to show off. I'll make this, but I make a filet Wellington, and I home make my puff pastry.
Okay.
It's a 3-day process, but
Yeah.
man, I love getting down in the kitchen. My favorite meal I cook, I feel like I make a pretty good pork chop, and I would have to, being a guy that raises pigs.
Come on now.
It's probably the meal I eat the most. Just some pork from back home, and it's it reminds me of home. It's simple, and I enjoy it.
This isn't on the lightning round, but are you a guy that keeps like the fat on, or do you like to take the fat off?
There's a healthy level of fat.
There is a
on
healthy
there.
level. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a quote unquote healthy level, right? I mean, it depends on who you are.
It's flavor at the end of the day if you cook it right. But we're not just sitting there with a chunk of fat. So.
Yeah, no, I get that. Awesome. Well, that was the lightning round. You did a great job. Got through it. Thank God. But feel free to take a second and tell the people what you're up to, what you're excited for most, and really what you're looking forward to in this next couple months or even this new role.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, what we're looking forward to and what we're expecting these next couple months are continuing to fight for American freedom in the realm of property rights and trying to increase prosperity through legal government. It looks like keeping an eye on what's going on with our water. It looks like monitoring the energy administrative states. And it looks like making sure that those that are out there providing for the country, whether that's energy, ag, whatever it may be, that their property rights are being protected.
Absolutely. Awesome. Kole, you killed it again. I cannot thank you enough for coming on this, what is it? We're at 48 minutes, roughly, more or less. But if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment. Even give a huge shout out to Kole because he did a great job. But if you enjoyed this, feel free to check us out at Mountain States Legal Foundation. Kole, it was a pleasure to have you. And we will see you next time to go Beyond the Bench.
Awesome. Thanks, Noah.